Hey everyone, welcome to Batch TV. My name's Landry and I'm the community manager at Batch Service. And today we're talking about one of my favorite topics in Batch Dialer, which is call results. So we're gonna get right into it. Let's jump into my account. So the reason I love this topic so much is because many people I talk to within the community that come to our webinars and our different master classes in the month, they'll ask me why the system calls people back that it already went through and dialed. And the answer is found in your call results. So another word for call results in Batch Dialer and just in the world of dialing is dispositions. And I'm going to be breaking that down today and all of the different things you can do with these. That not only can they give you visibility into who's going to be dialed again, who's going to be put onto your do not call list, who's going to just not be redialed, but you can automate your process quite a bit with just making your own and editing some of the rules. So we're going to go into a quick example of dialing so I can show you first off what I'm talking about. What is a call result? What's a disposition? So basically in Batch Dialer, there's two different types of modes. There's automatic dialing with the predictive dial mode or manual preview dialer. I'm going to use a preview dialer for this example, so do keep in mind we have automatic options here. I'm just going to keep it basic so I can show you. So I'm going to go to my Empty Nesters campaign. I opened up my dial pad by clicking on this phone button in the top right hand corner. It shows me my campaigns that I've created. Of course, I have my account set up. So if you don't see this on your end and you can't get it to open, of course, there's things you need to have set up in order to get that going in Batch Dialer. We have lots of resources here on Batch TV and our help center. So do keep that in mind. Just as a side note, you can always go to the B in the bottom left to go to our help articles. So let's go to join this campaign. I'm going to click on join. I'm going to go to next lead, and let's say that we go ahead and we call this contact. I'm going to click on call, and I will end the call really quickly, as this is just to show you where the call results come into play. So let's say you get on the phone, you have a conversation, and then you end the call. You will get your dispositions, your call results, and you'll disposition the call. Let's say it didn't go so great, and we mark it as do not call. Leave a note, and so on. Now, what your call results are doing is much more than just making a quick note on how the call went with those buttons. There are rules on the back of each and every one of those. Some of them don't have any rules, telling the system, go ahead and redial them when you can, like a no answer button kind of thing, or like DNC, put somebody on your do not call list so they're not called again. Your successful sale, that does more than you know as well. So let's jump into it. I'm just going to go to this little megaphone icon again in my dial pad to leave the campaign and finish it off. So let's go into phone system in my menu. This is where you can find your call results. Now, the first thing I want to call out is that your page will look different than mine. Because I teach in webinars and different classes, I have a lot of examples. And I do just want to say that up front that you do not need to create custom ones. You don't need to create a bunch in your account. You could even just stick with the defaults and the basics and still be perfectly successful in Batch Dialer. The key here today is to understand what your dispositions are doing for you and to have a good idea of what they can do for you depending on your needs. So in call results, if you don't see them populated like this, sometimes they're hiding. There's like a little addition symbol like this. Just click on it and it will open and expand that page to see everything. Now, after today's guide, even if you don't end up making your own and going in to customize these, I still highly recommend that you go and click on the pencil icon next to each of your dispositions just to see what they do for you. I also recommend not changing the defaults that we have unless you have a really good understanding of what that's going to change. So let's go into my do not call option here. That's the one I used on that previous call example. So let's see what's happened to that contact based on my rules. Just click on the pencil icon, edit disposition off to the right, and you can see that, of course, you can't change the name on the default ones. You can't change the description. You can if you create your own, which I'll show today. You can always put them in and assign them to number groups. I really don't ever do that within my account. Keep in mind they do need to be connected to your campaigns for them to actually populate on your page for you to use them when you're dialing contacts. So always make sure they're connected here just by opening them up and grabbing all your campaigns that you want it to be a part of. You can change the color here on defaults, but down here are the things that are important, the rules. So with my DNC button that I used on that previous contact, this is what happened to that lead. I added that specific number to my DNC or my do not contact list forever, for always. There's a lot you can do in here, and we'll really end up only scratching the surface on what you can do with your call results. You'll definitely want to get into the community to learn more and find out more tips and tricks, but let's go through some of our other call results. So keeping these things in mind, if I use my do not call button on a call with somebody like I showed previously, this is what will happen to the contact. And yes, it will put them on my DNC within my account for me. I'm going to open up another tab just to show you. Also within my phone system, this is my DNC section. So just to tie that last bit together, that person that I marked as do not call, they will end up on my DNC. They will not be called again in my campaign or throughout my entire account. Let's go through a few others that are going to be popular and you're going to see on your end as well. Something like successful sale. You will 100% see this in your account. This is the default, and we're going to click on the pencil, and we'll talk about all the other rules here today too. So this one by default is going to be marked as to not redial the entire contact and to mark them as a lead. So to not redial somebody, it doesn't put them on your do not call list. I mean, if this was a successful sale, that was a great conversation, you had a successful conversation with somebody, they don't need to go on your do not call list and never call them again. You're not going to want to redial them within the campaign. If you already talked to somebody, why are you going to call them back when you're trying to get through your contacts? And then mark as lead is for a couple different things. So first off, if you've ever been in your batch dialer account and you've noticed any sort of deal stat or generated leads, that's coming from a mark as lead rule on your disposition. So anytime you've looked at a campaign and you're like, why does the system say I have 5 deals in this campaign? It's coming from you marking people with that disposition that you've found a lead generated, essentially. There's a few different places it marks that information, but that's one of the things that it does. And another thing is if you connect your CRM, like Podio, for example, if you use a disposition that has this rule on the back, this is the magic that pushes or initiates that push to your CRM. So this might as well say push to CRM while you're there. So it creates stats in your account and it pushes people to your CRM. So let's jump into maybe creating a custom one, but do take the time to go through all of yours. Remember to note that I do have different ones. So if you don't see what on your account, what you see here on mine, it's because I have a lot of custom specific ones. Now, if you want to make your own, just go to new call result in the top right-hand corner. You can create your own name, your own description so that you can easily hover over the buttons at the end of the call to make sure that you're choosing the right one. You and your agents have a good idea. Choose the color, of course, make sure they're connected to your campaigns just by grabbing all of them here so it populates when you're on those campaigns and dialing. And let's just talk about the rest of the rules, and then I'll show you one example in my account that's been really popular with community members and people have started to leverage them to automate their processes a little bit. So do not redial contact. That is just the entire contact. Any numbers associated with them will not be redialed because you've essentially reached the right person. If you've reached Mary at 123 Main Street, there's really no reason for you to call her second phone number and redial anybody because you've already talked to the right person. So redialing or not redialing the entire contact. Same idea with adding a contact to DNC. If you've reached out to somebody and you want to add all of their numbers to your do not contact list, you would do the contact. Do not redial number would be like if you reach somebody that was a wrong number, then you might just put them as do not redial that specific number. You still want to try the rest of the ones that are attached to the contacts. Adding number to DNC, we talked about this one previously. You can do some other things like even putting somebody on the DNC for just a specific time period, like maybe you let them cool off for 6 months, but you do want to end up reaching back out to them later on. You can do pretty specific things here. Remember, mark as lead will come up as stats in your account and it will push people to your CRM. You can send an email when a call result is used. I'll show you an example here today. And then there's additional rules. You can schedule a call back. What this does is it will put somebody on your calendar, like there's up in the top right hand corner of your account, this little calendar here, it will put them on your calendar in X time period. So maybe when you use a button, you want to use it to put somebody on your calendar in maybe a month from now. And it will just put something to remind you to reach back out to that person. Something along those lines. We could get really deep with it, but we're going to keep it a little bit more high level. Send a voicemail is a very popular option. This is to use or for voicemail drops. You guys can find additional videos on this within Batch TV and also in our help center on exactly how this works. A voicemail drop is just essentially where you can add a recording and then I can use my disposition when I hit somebody's voicemail. It does have to be done manually, but it's still a pretty quick process where I call somebody, I hit their voicemail, and I could then end the call and then drop my disposition that has a recording attached to it. and it would leave that in their voicemail without me having to manually leave that message. But we're not going to dive into that today since we have other resources on that. Adding somebody to a campaign, this is a super popular option for people that you might want to follow up with. So you could maybe put them into a campaign to follow up with in a few months from now, and they're just ready to go, ready for you to pick up that campaign when the time comes to start dialing. And then adding to a list. Maybe when you reach out to certain people, you want to just put them onto a list to pull off of your account easier within your contact list section in your menu to pull that data off if you wanted. So you could do a lot here. Just keep in mind that your buttons do a lot of, or they can automate things a lot for you. So I'm going to go to one that I've already created in my account. This is a follow-up in 3 months button I have a ton of different ones, like maybe you reach out to somebody that speaks a different language. Maybe I reach somebody that speaks Spanish. This is a really popular one I took from somebody in our community, and a lot of other people have used this as well, where maybe they have somebody on their team in their operation that can speak to somebody, or they can speak in that language, so they could just send an email to that person on their team. They would mark them as do not redial. They would send an email over to somebody on their team, and then those leads aren't going to fall through the cracks rather than, trying to figure out who that was that you couldn't talk to earlier that day. So that's a really nice one. Just an example there. Let's go into this follow-up 3 months option. So click on edit. This is just one I've created personally. So maybe you run into somebody that says, call me back in a few months. I could then create a call result or have a call result that says follow up in X amount of time period. I could add them to my DNC for that amount of time. I like doing this because when you add somebody to your do not contact list compared to just do not redial, the DNC makes your account wide. So no matter what, if I accidentally import that contact again, or I have them in a different campaign, I don't have to worry about them being redialed or recalled in any campaign regardless when they're on my DNC for this amount of time. Plus, I can continuously call my follow-up campaign that I'm gonna then push them into without having to worry about calling people prematurely. It's going to basically have them in that don't call this person for X amount of time. And when the time comes, I can just keep working on that campaign. So that brings me to my second step that I have here. So if I click on add new rule and I chose add to campaign, it is going to bring up a page to have you select one. So I'll show you a really easy method in creating a campaign. You don't have to go into a ton of detail with it. But this way, if I find somebody that wants me to follow back up with them, or I want to reach back out to them, I can mark them with follow up in 3 months. The system would automatically say, hey, I don't want to call this person for X amount of time, and let me put them into my follow-up campaign so that when the time comes, I can just keep calling through that campaign and reach out to the people that it's hit that time period. You don't have to do any of these things. You can make it your own, of course, but let's click save and let me just show you with creating a campaign. If you like that method, which I have a lot of people in the community that use that for follow-ups specifically, all you have to do when you're creating a call result like that is to just create a very simple campaign so that there's going to be a place for those contacts to go. So in campaigns, we're going to go to new campaign. Choose your mode. For maybe a follow-up campaign, you might have like a preview dialer, like manually calling people one at a time, up to you, but choose your mode, either predictive being automatic or preview being manual and one at a time. Make sure you put your name on there or your other agents that are going to be dialing. Make sure there's phone numbers attached to actually make the calls with, and the contact list you're going to leave empty because it's going to be a placeholder essentially for the people you'll push over that kind of get pushed over from the call result. And let's just name this follow-up campaign 2025. And that's pretty much it. You really don't need to go into the other settings. We already have applied what we recommend. So you would just go into accept the terms and conditions and click save. So if you like that method, just have a placeholder, and then the system could then start pushing contacts into that campaign for you to then jump into and follow up with people when their time comes. These are by far one of the most important things you can have a good understanding of so that you can have success with automating things in your account and organization. Now, just as a final note, keep in mind that every time you've been marking people with dispositions, it's all marked, and all of your inbound and outbound calls are recorded. If you go to reports in your recent contacts, you can see all of your inbound, outbound calls, listen to call recordings, and you can also filter out by your call results and easily find people that you've marked with something specific in your account. There you guys have it. Call results are easily in my top 3 favorite things to share with people in Batch Dialer. They help people get organized, automate their processes, and ultimately avoid having important leads fall through the cracks. If this helped you, drop a comment down below. Let us know if there's something you want to set up in your account, as these can get quite detailed, and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to hit that like button, and don't forget to join our free community with the link in the description. And we hope to see you guys on some of our next videos here on Batch TV.